Howdy, folks. It's time. It's time to eulogize the season at this point. Bearcats have finally taken the final death stroke. Still yet to play in the crown, but we'll talk about it. I am Justin Hiles, joined by my great friend Steve Maurer, and this is Viva La Cats, of course, part of the 10-12 network, always bringing great coverage for the Big 12 in so many different facets for so many different sports. So make sure to check out our big boys up top, the 10-12 network, and also a shout out early in the show to our sponsors, Charlie Hustle and Extra Points, for helping us out. We always appreciate it. Charlie Hustle's got some cool new merch that they just dropped for the Big 12 tournament, which we'll show about halfway through the show. Find a way to go pick that up. I think it's pretty cool. So we'll talk about it later. Steve, I think it's just sweet relief at this point. Like I think we were all kind of hitting the point where like we know it's not going to happen. Let's just get it over with. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Tired of pretending. Go.
Yeah, I tweeted out the Homer Simpson gift is like the world is ending soon, the end is near, and I wanted to I feel like there's another meme of someone saying the end is nigh in a funny way that I couldn't think of. So that was the best I could do at that point.
Bring out your dead.
Bring out your dead. Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, I think it's like I had a meeting in between like it was like so for me the game started at 9:30 and then first half ends, Bearcats are down by like 10. I have a meeting that starts at 10:30 and so it goes like full half hour. I get on back 11. You can tell the world, Justin. I texted the group and I was like, should I turn the game back on?
Yeah.
And Donnie was like, they were competing there for a little bit. I appreciate Donnie, by the way. He's been the eternal optimist. So is Joel this season, and it's finally just over. So, Justin, I got asked. I joined the Scott and Holman podcast. If you're interested in following a basketball team that actually likes to win games in March and during the conference slate, and they asked me, what was the game where I felt that the season, the tournament hopes really took a downward spiral. And for me, and I want to hear your answer, but for me, it was the Kansas loss where we lost our fourth straight game to open up conference play, and you put up 40 points on your own home floor to a Kansas team who was ranked pretty highly at the time, but we now know is not that great. And I think at time of recording, they are losing to my beloved's alma mater. So I'll check on that. But I think just from that point on, it was just like, okay, well, it's going to be, I think I said it that week, is you're just fighting uphill the rest of the season, and you've dug yourself a hole already by losing 4 Big 12 games right out of the gate. And we won 7 overall. So we had already lost, we went 7-9 the rest of the way. So maybe some brighter news, though, Justin. The league did say that they're going to go back to 18 games, conference games next year, which means that Houston just went and won the most games that anyone will ever win in the Big 12. They went 19-1 in conference this year, and the league was like, okay, quit kicking everybody's ass. We're just going to go back to 18 games. So shout out to them. I just have a lot of respect for them, and I didn't get to joining here on this show last week, and I was going to say like something about how the golf has never been bigger, but the golf has just never been bigger between the Bearcats and the actual tournament, actual success. And it's more just, to me, frustrating, Justin, that we are finally at this end. And obviously we know that Wes is coming back for next year. There's no real drama there. We don't know anything about postseason. We don't know anything about potential player movement. We will get to that coming up on the show. But I want to pose that question again to you, Justin. Which game in the season did you truly feel that the tournament chances were really in doubt? Because I'm curious to hear what your answer is.
While I think you make a really good point on the Kansas one, I think situationally is fine. The part where I felt the spiral, where it's like this thing's probably cooked, is the Utah loss. because
yeah.
you lose the first 4, but you lose Kansas State on the road in a weird game, and then Arizona, Baylor, and Kansas. You knew that those 3 were going to be tournament teams at the end of the season, so you could accept that. Kansas, top 15 team. You could accept that. Even though it's at home and you score 40 points, it's terrible. That was really bad. It's all to good teams. So you could say, all right, maybe there's a chance. You followed up with the Colorado, Arizona State wins. Those at least felt good in kind of a get right situation. The Texas Tech loss kind of hurt because it was at home. Still a good team. Obviously, one of the best. Clearly a top 10 team. The BYU one, just downright miserable. And then when you get to the Utah one, you're like, okay, if there's anybody we can beat this season, it's got to be Utah, and we got to figure out a way to just beat Gabe Madsen. Like just a program corrector in the middle of the season, and you lose that one, and especially in the fashion that you did, I think that was the point where it's like, okay, we can lose to the best teams, but we're also losing to the bottom teams, and it's just not going to get better. And then of course, clearly from there, it just kept going backwards. And this is the thing for me where you look at some of these like streaks throughout the season and you look how some of the games are broken up. There's just, like you said, there's 7 wins in conference. There's just not enough to go around. And it kind of sucks when I think you look at everything in perspective, because your 7 wins are Colorado, Arizona State, UCF, BYU, Utah, TCU, Baylor, and then Oklahoma State after the fact. So that technically obviously doesn't count for regular season. But like when you look at those across the board, the only ones that you can really feel like you did something with is maybe the Baylor game. And then, of course, the BYU one, because BYU has just turned it around in the back half and is a really, really good team right now. Clearly showed that today. Go Cougs. Beating Iowa State. That's a huge win, especially in the Big 12 tournament, where that's Cancun. What is it? Kansas City is Cancun for the folks of Ames. But
Cancun.
Yeah, Cancun.
Cancun, baby.
But
All
yeah,
the Busch
like I
Light
said,
you can drink.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where like you look at this entire season, and I think it sucks. And this is where I want to pose a question to you. This season obviously just slugged on and on and on for when we kind of knew the writing was on the wall. Do you think there clearly wasn't really progress? Do you think that this season is objectively worse than last year? Which is the real
without
kicker.
a doubt,
Yeah.
because you got your ass handed to you in multiple games this year. And like near the stretch run last year, there was, I think the TCU game was a big one where they kind of got their ass handed to them. But they looked way more competitive. Like they flip flopped the years where their expectations would have matched their performances, right? Like last year, nobody would have been surprised if they walked into the Big 12 play and then just got like put through the meat grinder,
Mm-hmm.
And then this year people would have expected more. But last year they played a lot better. And then this year people are just confused, like what happened? Like what?
Right.
And so, I saw the guys at Chatterbox tweet out how Cincinnati started Big 12 play at number 14 in the nation and went all the way to having a 0% chance of having their name called on Selection Sunday. Now, I will push back and say, which selection show? Because
There you go.
we've had our name called for the past 2 Selection Sundays, but it's just not the later than everybody has usually wanted it to be. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's just frustrating, man. Like this is just, and everybody knows about the coaching. So let's do the coach thing real quick, Justin. I tweeted out. I had a meeting this morning that was like 15 minutes, but required me to be up at 6 a.m. local. So I wasn't really trying to go back to bed, and I had to go in the office. Oh, anyway, so then I was up, and I was like, I saw on Twitter that Ben Johnson from Minnesota, former ex-assistant, by the way, had gotten let go, and conveniently, he was one of those coaches that was in that 2021 coaching carousel for power conference schools with Wes. And so the thing to me, Justin, about that, and just comparing it, there's 3 very clear success stories in that group. You got Shaka Smart at Marquette, and then weirdly enough, you now have two Big 12 coaches in Tommy Lloyd and TJ Otzelberger. You probably could have got Otzelberger. I think he had been hired already at Iowa State before we fired Brandon and hired Wes, and I don't. And honestly, I think Iowa State was in a worse state than we were, just because I think they had won 2 games that season, and they were terrible. They were like absolutely awful. And then Otzelberger had them turn around the next year, and they were already in the tournament. And it just Wes has just not done that. And so you have those 3 guys who have clearly made their way to the top. And I will mention that Hubert Davis, for some reason, I thought he was going to get fired, and a nice K-State fan in the comments reminded me that he had just gotten extended less than like 3 weeks ago. So I must have missed that. So he's technically on there, and he was on the hot seat, but he still won. He went all the way to the national championship game 3 seasons ago in 2022, in his first season on the job. Beat Coach K twice on the way there. So the other thing too is that now Mike Woodson is getting let go officially at Indiana after 2 down seasons, but 2 seasons where he made a round of 32 appearance in two tournaments. And if you just look at the whole list, the list is just like frustrating, because the teams who have not made it are us, Utah, and the teams who have not made it and still have their same head coaches. I'll read it off for you. Boston College, Oklahoma, that one's still TBD, by the way, and Cincinnati. So and then everybody else in that coaching carousel, even the ones who have made the tournament once or more. Well, there's one guy who got hired away, but everybody else who has made the tournament once or more has been fired. 2 of them for off-court reasons. And then DePaul's coach, Minnesota's coach, and Utah's coach have all been fired in the last 2 years. DePaul, they were bad, so I don't care. But Minnesota and Utah, like we were talking about earlier, Justin, and they've been making power conference money a lot longer than Cincinnati has. But it's just a little bit frustrating to see like us down at the bottom of this grouping here, where we see ourselves as not a terrible program, right? We don't see ourselves in this way, but we are, we're there right now. And this is why I got so mad like the first year of the West era, where in hindsight we probably didn't get a bid to the NIT, but
Right.
there was a tweet from Chad Brendel in reference to postseason tournaments where someone from the program said we don't play in that shit, and then I was like, well, you haven't earned that. It's your first year here, and we've now missed the three consecutive tournaments.
Remember when that was the biggest concern?
Yeah.
Oh my.
So we'll talk about postseason later, but it's, you know what, Justin, I was happy that they won on Tuesday. I was hoping that they had won the last 2 games. I watched every second of that Kansas State game, and that was another excruciating game to watch. Especially to a team in Kansas State that is not that great. So it's just frustrating, and I'm glad it's over.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to add this real quick too, because you'd mentioned sort of that coaching cycle, and I think this is a thing that I keep looking at that is just kind of driving me up the wall, is the whole situation with Iowa State. Like, I mean, I think that's the best measuring stick for somebody to just get with it. Otzelberger, when he came in, they came off Iowa State. I want people to know this if they don't. He came into this program after they went 2-22. Like, just put that together. Like the 2020, it was 2021, 2022 season. Why is this not showing up? I'm trying to click on stuff. It's just not working. There we go. Okay. Yes. 2020, 2021 season. goes 2-22. Their only wins are to Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Jackson State. That's it. The entire season. 0-18 in conference. Terrible, terrible run. Comes in the next season, and this is where the progression goes. And I think it needs to be shown that, like, again, the model for Wes and the model for these coaches needs to be shown this way is you go from that to following that up with a 7-11 record. Sound familiar? That's what the Bearcats had. And then going to the Sweet 16. You went from a 2-22 team to a Sweet 16 team in one season with a new coach. That just and that's before NIL, before you can actually just
NIL was around.
Well, and in 21-22 it was around, but it wasn't the
you're right. I don't think we had reins yet. Yeah, like I don't think it was fully yeah.
This is still the transition period where you are not straight up paying players $4 or $5 million to be on your roster, and you could pay as much money as you want, like in Ohio State in football. Just say, we're going to build the best roster possible. This is still before that. So then you take that. You go forward to 22-23. They make the tournament again. They also go 19-13, 9-9 in conference. You fast forward to last season. What did they do? They went 27-7, 13-5 in conference, and made it to the Sweet 16 again. Lost by 3 to Illinois. I don't know. And this season, you gather all that together, 13-7 in conference, 24-9, including today's loss against BYU. And they will go to the tournament, and they might make the Sweet 16 again. They're just that good. This is the thing that I think just goes to show that it doesn't matter what your program name is. Like, Iowa State is not just this historic powerhouse blue blood kind of school. They're a good school. They've had some good history here and there, but they're not even what Cincinnati should be by conversation, by talk. And yet you can have another program that does that exact same thing and has a model there right in front of you. And it clearly just goes to show it's the coaching that can elevate that team from this to that. And there's no excuse. It's not timing. It's not anything else. It's just get your shit together and get it right. And we just are lost, completely lost. And that's the kind of thing where it's not just an ISU program. It's multiple programs all over the country that are figuring it out. And we're just spinning our wheels. And I don't know when it finally clicks or when the money gets just right to where you figure it out. But something's got to change, because how long are you going to keep how long are you going to keep toying with it?
So real quick, Justin, I asked this in the group. So let's record our answers. I'll ask you. I don't really think he'll even get fired next year, because apparently his buyout next year is still too high for our taste. So what if you had $5 million next year by this time, you make some good investments, you sprinkle a few things here and there, and you, Justin Howes, have $5 million in your bank account, and it's for no other reason than to pay off a buyout for a coach, making everyone else in your life upset. What would make you stop from spending that money at this point next year? How much success would Wes Miller have to have for you, Justin Hiles, brand new mega booster, to not pay for the buyout?
Sweet 16.
Okay.
You don't have to win the Sweet 16. You got to make it past the second. You have to prove that everything that you have done up until this point is making progress. You showed between all your time, you never won the American. So that was, you don't even have a coach that can win in the American. That's a first problem. Then you take that same coach and bring him to the Big 12. You clearly can't win in the Big 12, but you go 7-11, then you go 7-13 or 4. What's the math? Did I do that wrong?
I got to pull it up right here. They went.
Let me make sure I got that right. 7-13 in conference, and it was 7-11 before. So you actually managed to have a worse win-loss record than you did the season before. You returned all of this core talent and you were a top 5 returning production team in the country going into the season. You clearly showed you could do some stuff in non-conference, and you went completely off the radar. Again, next year, I could not care less what you do in non-conference. If you go 11-0, you win or lose 2 games. At this point, it's about what you can do in the Big 12. At this point, it's about whether or not you can put yourself in the top half. And then, cool, you might win some games. You might screw around and win some games. If you get yourself in the top half, that's great. In order for me to actually feel confident about the future of this program, you got to make the tournament and you got to win a game. And realistically, I think you should win 2, because if you can do that, you can do the thing that this program has not seen since 2012, which is well over 10 years. So
it'll be 14 years next year.
Yeah. So that's where I come back to. Oh, did you say something?
I said it'll be. Oh, I'm lagging. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I'm back. Okay.
Okay. I got you. I didn't know if you said anything else.
No. I just said it'll be 14 years next year since
Gotcha.
CC has made the second weekend. And I agree. I think he does need to do that. Otherwise, Justin, you and I, mega boosters that will be next year by this time. Don't worry, folks. We'll tell you all about it. We'll tell you every which way our money moves up. We will. I think that's it. And let's just say my percentage chances of that happening are low. So
likewise,
he keeps saying he wants to prove us wrong. Then do it, man. Like nothing would please me more than for you to prove me wrong.
Well, and that's true, man. Like I think everybody clearly likes Wes, and I don't know how many times we get to have this conversation, but like
not anymore.
Yeah, well, that's true. Maybe it becomes less and less, but I think a lot of people like Wes as a person. I think a lot of people like Wes as a human being. That's cool. But you can separate a human being from the job. You can separate that person from the coach. They are not one and the same, because on one hand, you have a really good person. On another, you have a point to be made that results do matter. And that when you are being paid like a Big 12 coach, when you are making money like some of the other best coaches in the country, you better damn show up. Like that's the thing that, like, again, like, say what you want about the everyday Joe Schmo, you or me, about how people would evaluate our performance and our job with whatever. Cool. Like, this is an entertainment industry, and your job is to go out and win. Like, that's what it is. And so if your job and your job security relies on your performance in the way that you perform on TV in front of a bunch of people, and you consistently don't show up, at some point people are going to start asking questions. Now, let's take the conversation of anybody else who's just a regular lower middle class person. Cool. This guy gets to make millions of dollars and not do his job well. Millions of dollars to not do his job well and to not satisfy anybody's appetite for what his job requires. And that's where I come to, how many coaches in the country could you give all of the money that we have for NIL, plus the Jordan deal, plus all of the recruits that we have in the building now? Shout out to us for that. Cool. Who could you not give those 3 resources plus everything else that you'll get from the athletic department? Who could you not give that to and say, are they going to win 7 games this year? I don't know. Are they going to win 7 Big 12 games? I don't know. Maybe. I think most coaches in D1 basketball at any team could do that. The Big 12 is very difficult, but there's a lot of winnable games with the roster, with the talent, and with the resources that you have. And that is far and above a lot of other teams. Figure it out, man. I'm frustrated. I'm just really frustrated. I wish that I didn't come to this kind of point, but like, I've been the optimist throughout so much of the season, but like, it sucks, man. Yeah. Like, I'm tired of like putting my energy into this team and not getting anything in return. Like, why did I spend my entire season, or my entire like winter season, watching this team? I could have done so many better things with my time than to sit here and watch this team, for them to come up short for the 6th season in a row.
I'll let you know, Justin. I did spend my time doing other things than
That's good for
watching
you, man. I'm
watching
glad to hear
games. Like I don't know. It just got to a point where it was just frustrating, and there was just no like every I saw your tweet yesterday during or Tuesday during the Oklahoma State game. It's like, when did CMOS go from oh yeah that's in to oh that's off
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
over a season? And I feel that way about every one of our 3-point shooters. I'm like, oh yeah, that's oh no
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
off. Yeah. So speaking of 3-point shooters, Justin, um, you asked a question to our beloved fans, and thank you all for responding. We appreciate you all, and hopefully more of you will keep coming back and keep enjoying us. Who they would rather have stay and not enter the mystical, wonderful world that is the transfer portal. What was the consensus there?
The consensus seems pretty clear. I think if you, the listener, sat here and thought like, who would I want to keep? Most people probably agreed with you. I think the clear and away favorites were obviously Jizzle, um, Day Day as well, and then the third option was pretty much all over the board. I think this is sort of the situation where, again, like everybody's going to have different perspectives, but I don't necessarily know if any of them are wrong. Like, I think everybody's going to be a little bit different, but some people want to see Reed, some people want to see Mitchell. Um, some people still even want to see Rayvon. And some of these other pieces. So I think it's just interesting to see how everything's kind of like shaken out. What would you say, Steve, for yours?
Yeah, so I think definitely keeping Reed. Like he went from not getting any playing time in the Xavier game to being essentially our best player during the Oklahoma State conference tournament win. Like impressive. Shout out to him. He's like, and it makes me almost mad, Justin, that he didn't see the court for that long, because I wonder what could some of our other games have looked like with him on the floor. So definitely Reed. I would I'm going to go a different way. I'm going to say Dylan. I'd like to keep Dylan for another year just to really see
Mm-hmm.
what he can be. And maybe if you play a little bit of a smaller ball and play, would still keep him at the four, depending on if you get someone in the portal. If you get someone out of the portal to replace Aziz. And so definitely those two I would keep. And then third one, it's a good question. You know, just to be different, I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna say Ray. I'm a Rayvon Griffith. I don't want him to leave, and I want him to get some run. And I don't think that it's a good idea for him to go, just because obviously he can get more playing time somewhere else. But like, I think the thing I learned about the Big 12 this year, Justin, especially with the additions of Arizona and uh, you know no, not Utah. Uh, well, to be honest, all four of the new teams were, other than Arizona, were not that good this year. So, but just with the how this league is every night, like 8 to 10 point leads are not safe, and you
Oh no.
need to like you really like need guys. You need a solid lineup and rotation, and you need depth. And I really truly think this is like the SEC definitely had a really good year, but I truly think this is like one of, if not the best basketball leagues in the country. And it's just going to take like so many bodies on any given night. And I really like what Rayvon brings. And he's just
Yeah.
not, you're not going to be developing guys in the middle of Big 12 games. It's just not going to happen. So I kind of would love to see what he could do with another year. But yeah, so those are my three, kind of for the sake of being a little different, and maybe just a little bit of opinions there.
I'll say the most liked tweet under here. Beautiful name. Chili Smolier. Love that. Absolutely love that. With a picture of Joe Burrow. Um,
Wonderful.
Day Day and Mitchell. Um, assuming the incoming freshmen are already locked in, which I'm sure they will be. God help us all.
Then we
Uh,
got other problems.
hey yo. Yeah. So I would honestly, I think I would agree with what he says, although I do think there are some interesting points in the fact that um here's the thing. I think this team clearly last year when we saw in the NIT, but last year towards the end of the season in that stretch, and for the points where things were successful this season, when you're running Jizzle and Day Day on the court at the same time, things actually worked out pretty good. As much as they are the exact same player. And I think that's kind of where I think you have to find the dividing line. And as much as I like both of these players a lot, I think you do have to kind of pick one because you can't keep splitting their time because it's I wouldn't say it's necessarily hampering development, but I think it hampers your offense and defensive sides of the ball. And I think they both bring their own individual element, but I think it's going to be tough if you bring both of them back again for another year, the third straight year, when both of them really should be a starter for the exact same spot. And you really need a true two. You can't afford to have Jizzle be your two or Day Day be your two because the matchups just don't work.
You
And
you need a point guard, dude.
you
Like
do. And
it's yeah.
you
They
need a
need
distributor.
they need a facilitator. They need someone like I know this is not a good name on this podcast, but like Max Asmus, the guy who
Yep.
traveled during the Texas game and somehow beat us last year. But like a guy like that who's a fifth year senior and has played 4 years, like that was why when the Marquez Warwick talks last year of him being interested in UC and ultimately him going to Mizzou, like I was in on him because we need a point guard. Like I don't really think Jizzle and Day are refined point guards at this point. And I think you really need like, what are the cliches in March? Senior talent and experienced guard play. Like
Yep.
those, and just the amount of turnovers. Like, I was, like I said, I was at work. So I was like listening to the radio broadcast, and Dan Horde, man, he was giving Jizzle like, he was giving Jizzle the time. And just I don't usually hear Dan Horde like be like critical that much just in general. He's usually like pretty positive and supportive. So to like just hear him criticize at all is a little bit jarring, and he was kind of going at Jizzle, and may I say it was not completely unprompted. Just the way that I know Jizzle like scores a lot of points for us, but it's more just that I think I think we really do need a point guard, and someone who, Justin, you tweeted the clip of them just like, with Dan driving into the lane, four defenders crash on him, and he's stuck in the middle, and he has to throw up like a prayer shot while our four guys are out on the perimeter and not really able to help him very much. Even if one of them was in the paint, that's a contested area, and you're not that's still not a high percentage pass there that he's going to have to make. So it's just more that I think a facilitator of the offense would be huge for next year, especially when we got into ruts in the half court offense and weren't able to score at all. And so, like, I think you're right. I think probably we need to choose one or the other, and then we really need to go get a point guard.
Yeah. I mean, I
because
think
you also can't expect Sean to just come in as a freshman and save everything, especially like I said in the Big 12 with how crazy it is. Like you need, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I mean, just like you said, a freshman, like he's going to make mistakes no matter how good he is. He's going to be a world beater if everything is to be believed about Sean. He's going to be an NBA first round pick. He's going to be at least in the draft after this coming season. So it's those kind of things I think you have to consider. And if you want this team to succeed, and if you want him to succeed, you also have to put him in the best position possible. And this is where I come back to so many things about, again, it's weird because the team is most successful when Jizzle and Day Day are on the court at the same time. However, it's also the biggest hampering factor because you have two very ball dominant players who are looking to get their shot and are not necessarily looking to pass. And then you layer in the other three guys on the court. So if you bring back those two, and then you got to put Sean on there on that lineup at the 3 or the 4, it's and you mix in whoever else you can on that roster, however things shake out, like he needs to be able to have his time on the court, and he needs to be able to have his shots. And if you're trying to split it between a junior Jizzle and a senior, super senior Day, and then everybody else in there, it's just not going to give him time to succeed. I think, like I said, it really just comes down. You got to pick one or the other, as much as I really think those are probably two of your key players that you should return. And I think that just is going to continue to hamper you as long as you keep going that small ball lineup. Because clearly it just hasn't worked. Like it's worked in certain moments, but it hasn't worked overall. It's just not the formula. Though they are both very talented. And so I'd say for me, if I had to choose between the two, people might be kind of shocked about this, but I think I'd rather take Day, quite honestly. And I think Jizzle can get the shot, and I think Jizzle would go to some other team and just kill us, and it'd be a nightmare. But I think Day can be that distributor, and I think he offers a lot of things that, like, he's got a little bit more of that off-ball sort of action, and he's just really good defensively. Like, that's the formula that's worked for us. I think I identify with that with him. And so that'd be where I'd lean. But then again, Mitchell and Josh. Like, I think Day, Mitchell, and Josh, or Chisel, Mitchell, and Josh. That those would be my three. And everybody else, I'd get it. I'd get it if they stay. I'd get it if they go. I wouldn't blame a player for leaving. I wouldn't blame a player for staying. I think there's a lot to look forward to, but it's a weird situation. And again, like, the person I still feel bad for in the middle of all this is just Rayvon, man. Like, he's just, unfortunately, his situation and timing, he came in at just the wrong time to be in the most stacked position that this program has had year after year after year since he's been in the program. And there's just not been a lane for him to really get enough minutes to get out there and play. And I think he's still got a lot of time, but I think it's one of those things for him too. Clock's probably ticking. And is he going to be an Evan Prater sort of guy where he's just going to end up being your raw athlete who's a Cincinnati kid through and through, is going to stick around? Or is he going to be, is he going to take his talents elsewhere?
Yeah.
Wouldn't blame him either way. I understand.
No, me neither.
So I don't know, man. It's a weird world, but it ultimately comes down to something's got to change. And I think there's a lot of positions that you can replace here. I think you're still hopefully going to return Hickman too, which I think will be good for next year. We saw a lot of good movement out of him before, his injury, but there's a lot of guys on the rotation that I think could be part of it. But I think for what this season was to the transition from last year to this year, and then this year to next year, some of those guys you're keeping should probably be your rotation players, and they should not necessarily be your starters. And you need to replace that with starting level talent, and you need to go out and pay guys $1 or $2 million, however much you need to get them. You need to do the Landers Nolly move in the off season, not the no knack on any guys are trying to pick them out, but even like a Connor Hickman or a CJ Frederick or a Page kind of move where it's like you're getting more guys who are just kind of going to add to it, but not a guy who's going to be a clear and away starter. You need the guy who is going to go out there and ball. Like Dylan Mitchell, you brought him in as a starter. You knew that was going to be your guy. Aziz, you brought him as a starter. You knew that was going to be your guy. Like, you need to do that again. I think those types of players can be successful. But as long as you keep bringing in all these extra rotation players that are not good enough to be a starter, but just good enough to be kind of in the mix, you need the ball. You need the guy who's going to go win you games. And that's the thing that matters, especially when you want to make it to March. You need the game winners. That's what Houston has 10 of.
13, 15.
They have too many. Maybe we can take some of them. I mean, we'll see if Day just doesn't decide to go to Houston, but it's a different conversation.
Well, as long as Houston will be playing in the NCAA tournament, we have our options, Justin, but we really only have one option. And it's the question of should we wear the crown or not? Should we compete in this year's brand new tournament, the college basketball crown, which, but might I add, is taking place way too late. It's March 31st through April 6th, all in Vegas. So that'll be fun. But, we're recording and so this podcast will be released on the 14th. So you got 17 days until the first round of the crown. And Justin, I don't really know. Like, I mean, that's 17 days in college sports is an eternity. Like a million things can happen in that time.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you first, though, how do you feel about playing in the crown? Should we wear it?
It's tough. I'm fighting two battles. I'm fighting there's the one side of me that says you should wear the crown purely on principle of, I mean, you're just not what you were, and you might as well go out and try to win some extra games. And sure, it's all consolation, but yeah, I mean, go play some more games and maybe give yourself something to pat yourself on the back for going forward to next season. And then the other part of me is my personal point, which is I love the Bearcats, but I don't want to watch this team play basketball anymore. I literally just want to move on. Like I love the Bearcats to my core, but I do not want to watch them play basketball anymore until November. I'm over it. I'm just over it. Like I don't want to care about what this team can or can't do in a consolation tournament for myself. But on principle and what the program should do, I think they should play in it. I just don't want to watch it.
A fair on both accounts, and I am the same way, and I may not watch if they do play, but I think this would be a good opportunity to see a Rayvon Griffith play, see like some of your younger guys that depends on who really goes in the portal and who decides to stay. Like obviously, if Josh Reed's there, you're playing Josh Reed. If you're if whoever is still here, I mean, like I wouldn't be surprised if the seniors would still want to play. Like
I'm sure they would.
Like, and if any of the guys, I had a close friend of the show text me yesterday, like, do we think we'll have enough players for the crown? And I was like, I don't really think they're going to have that many guys leaving in the portal. Like we have a couple of guesses. We'll save those until maybe they become true or not. But you're not going to have 7 players left. Like, I don't think there's a mass exodus coming.
It takes a John Brannon to do that to your program.
Yeah. And we still had 6 guys. Like we could have played something if we were good enough to get invited. We weren't, but I think it would be great for some of the guys who did not really get much playing time, especially if we play against like there's supposedly going to be Big East and Big Ten teams in this, but there's also going to be other teams. And if you're playing a lower level team, and you don't really care about the tournament, why not get some of those guys who you didn't give much run to, like an Ayrton Page, who could probably use the minutes, or a Rayvon, or hell, if you want to get JJ Rembear off, I think he's redshirting right now. But if you want to get like who are our walk-ons right now? Like I want to get all the guys, like other than CJ Anthony, he needs to keep his red shirt so that he can play one more year next year. But so literally, he is the only guy that I do not want to see on the court. Everybody else, get him out there. Like I kind of just want to see what the end of the bench looks like, and I kind of want to at least let these guys have their one final shot, because I don't really like when coaches decide like, yeah, we're done, because you look back probably as an athlete and you're like, man, I wish I would have gotten to play one more game for my school. And like, I didn't have a problem with Kansas State saying they weren't going to play in it, because they were in the Elite Eight 2 seasons ago. So they've done something recently. We haven't. So
yeah, no, I think all those points are fair. It ultimately comes down to, I think the only benefit, like you said, is just getting some of the younger guys reps. That's really the only benefit here, and seeing what you might have in some of your rotation players going forward to next season. But if it's just an extra little bit of, one more, let's run it back one more time for the seniors, cool, let them have it. But it's also not something that I'm particularly interested in. Like, it's just being honest. Like,
completely fair.
It's just, I said this before the show. and I think this is just kind of a funny way of spinning it, but it's just the boys club of the teams that just kind of sucked. Like
Yeah.
it's hey, we're in a power conference. We might suck, but we're in a power conference. So we're gonna make a separate tournament just to show you that we're better than the other ones. So it's not the NIT. I don't think it's going to get play. I really feel like it's gonna be this. It gives me big three vibes. If that's I feel like that's a good way to put it, where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a bunch of guys, ragtag group of guys who want to go out and play. Like maybe, yeah, there's some stars in there here and there, but nobody who's really either good enough to be in the league anymore, or nobody who's really anybody really wants to watch it. But is it going to be exciting or interesting? Yeah, sure, probably. But is it something that you're gonna like? Hey, this thing comes on at 4. Babe, I got plans. Like, no, absolutely not. Like, I'm just gonna be like, oh, cool, we won, or oh, cool, we lost. Let's move forward.
I think it's time to admit to the podcast, Justin, that if UC had beat Utah Valley a couple of years ago, I was going to go to Las Vegas for the semifinals.
We would have. We talked about it. We said we are going to buy the tickets. And we're going to fly out to Vegas to watch them in the NIT, and I think that would have been fun. I get it, but like
now it's like no,
yeah.
Come on now, yeah.
Time has passed, and it's just time to move on.
It's funny the first time as a bit, and then every time after that, it just gets more depressing.
Yeah, and
I don't even have I've been trying to do the crown bit, and I got one like on a tweet about getting ready to learn crown. So I don't think people are into it at all.
Yeah.
If you pulled most of the fan base, I don't think they care. I think they're done.
That's fair, and I think I would agree.
I can't blame them, and I probably agree with them.
Yeah, and if you want to watch it, I mean, good for you. I'm
Sicko.
glad you still have something to watch, but you are a sicko. Here will be this is my last point, because we're basically going to close on basketball until I guess they play in like 2 weeks, and we'll mention it because we're Bearcats podcast, but not because we want to. Wes Miller, what do you think his longest winning streak is throughout his entire time with the Bearcats? That includes the 21, 22, 23, and 24 seasons.
I'd probably say whatever we were to start the 2024-2025 season. I would guess that was like a 6 or 7-0 before the Villanova game.
The answer is 6 total, and it was not this year. It was 5 this year. His longest winning streak came in the 2022 season. 2023 season. Starting off, here we go. 6-0. 7-0. You're right. I can't count. I screwed that up. That's fine. 7-0. Starting off 7-0 against UIC, Detroit Mercy, Eastern Washington, Northern Kentucky, Georgia Tech, Howard, and Florida Gulf Coast, an absolute behemoth of a schedule. That is the longest streak that this team has had. And when it came to playing anyone of meaningful competition, I believe the longest streak past that is 4. So
we only had 3 straight in the Big 12 this year. And that was even an accomplishment because we didn't win consecutive games last year in the Big 12.
Exactly. We did not do that. And Wes Miller, even in the American, only managed to win 3 straight games at any given point in either of his 2 seasons there or in the Big 12. When it comes to conference play, he is not able to win more than 3 consecutive games. That has been proven over the course of 4 years now. So that is the tidbit that I will leave with you all for the interest of time. We will move on and hit some quick points. Steve, guess what? We have a little tidbit from our friends at Charlie Hustle, and it's a pretty hot new item. You want to know how hot it is? Right now, it's sold out on the website. I'm trying to figure out when they're going to get them back on because it just happens so fast. Guess what? Here it is. That nice, beautiful shirt that you see in front of you with the 90s Bearcat dunking in its full glory and form. Beautiful block lettering. They do it right every time. Gives me kind of like 90s Reds, like World Series kind of vibes with the font there. Kind of liking that. And of course, the Dunking Bearcat. You just can't get any better than that. This is, of course, part of the Charlie Hustle dunking mascot series. They have about 8 or 9 of these spread across their line. But recent addition for the Big 12 tournament. Really, really love to see it. Some great product for them. Of course, everything is super comfortable, very wearable. And Charlie Hustle always providing some quality vintage merch. So make sure to head on over to www.charliehustle.com/collegiate. Find the Cincinnati Bearcats page and go grab this boy. It's $38 right now, but you can get 15% off with the promo code 1012 network. That is 1012 network for 15% off of all non-sale items. And that code will continue to be good as long as we keep telling you about it. So head on over there, find the shirt. Hopefully it's not sold out. And if it is still, we will let you know when it's not and when there's a little bit more in stock. And again, plenty of other quality threads for all the other teams. And if you got some relatives or friends who are members of the Big 12 and beyond, have them check out Charlie Hustle, or maybe just buy him a gift. Steve.
Man, how do I follow that up? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you my personal story of how I followed that up. I was sitting in bed last week. It was a Friday morning. I was enjoying some coffee and working a little bit, and I was reading the Extra Points newsletter on my phone. Have you heard about this? Have you seen this? It's called the Extra Points newsletter. You can get it for free at extrapointsmb.com. And I was scrolling down through and I was reading the story, and there was a nice little ad break that featured our friends at the 1012 network, and it featured the very podcast you're listening to right now. I literally saw myself in a newsletter of Extra Points. And the cool thing about that is that I've been reading Extra Points pretty much ever since it started. I think Matt Brown was an early guest on one of our favorite podcasts, Split Zone Duo. And ever since he's been publishing his own newsletter 5 times a week, has some guest writers on every now and then. And he really helps you understand the full business of college sports. And something, like I said earlier, 17 days in college sports literally is a millennium. Anything could happen within 17 days. So if you want to be informed, you want to keep up with everything, and you don't want to go farther than your email box, look no further than extrapointsmb.com. Matt Brown is going to take care of you 5 days a week. Premium subscriptions available. So go on over to extrapointsmb.com. Tell them Viva the Cat sent you. You can even click on the little banner that comes up sometimes during the week when we advertise with the Extra Points newsletter. Click on us. Click on extrapointsmb.com. Shout out to Matt Brown, and keep fighting the good fight.
Absolutely. Steve, guess what? Oh, added
You can leave the Dunkin' Bearcat up there, honestly.
Yeah.
It's much better.
Let's just give it some more screen time.
Yes.
A moment of silence. And it's great. It really is great timing that we have this shirt, and this season is just the dumpster fire that it was is just finally over. But hey, get this shirt and it'll you can still rep Bearcats basketball.
You could have caught me at an establishment nearby my home rocking that shirt with pride. But the Bearcats decided to steal my joy. The basketball team, at least, because you know what the baseball team is doing right now, Justin? Sidebar real quick. You tell me, is the Diamond Cats, is that cool, or am I just playing up on the Diamondbacks too much?
No, I love the Diamond Cats. It's fun.
Okay. The Diamond Cats, that's what we're calling them now. The Diamond Cats, they are on a 6-game heater right now. They just swept their first homestand of the year. They won all 6, beat Toledo last Tuesday, took 4 against Canisius for not the sweep, but the mop. That's a 4-game sweep for all those who you are curious. And they beat the hated rival Miami Redhawks on Tuesday, 12-3. Probably could have run ruled them if they decided to actually really, bring the lumber for the last couple innings. But we decided to be nice and let them have a little bit of an easier ride home back up to Oxford. So these Diamond Bearcats, these Diamond Cats, they are playing in their first Big 12 series of the season today. As you listen tonight, if you got nothing else going on, there's a baseball game waiting for you at 9 p.m. Eastern. Justin, personally, as a baseball fan, I love when my team goes on a West Coast road trip because I can stay up late, watch the game, maybe fall asleep while I'm watching it. Hopefully not, because that means my team is playing well. Done this a million times with the Reds, and now as Cincinnati is part of a conference that extends to the Mountain Time Zone, which is currently 3 hours behind Eastern Time, we are able to have late night baseball for the Bearcats now.
Oh, yeah.
So Cincinnati will be playing at my wife's alma mater of the University of Arizona this upcoming weekend for 3 games. Your boy will be there. Tickets have been purchased for Saturday's game,
Very
making
nice.
the drive down to Tucson for that one. Cincinnati's bringing like I said, 6-game winning streak into what is lovingly known as the Juice Box, because it's High Corbett Field, High C, the Juice Box. And we'll have a good group of Bearcat fans there on Saturday night, but it's just going to be a good test for them. I'm look forward to see what they can do. Arizona would be a quad one opportunity. We have quads in college baseball too. So, by the way, speaking of college baseball, our friends, not so much friends at that Blue School down the road from Cincinnati, they are currently number 2 in the nation in RPI and strength of schedule, but they are 7-9 on the season, and they were losing 17-0 after 3 innings against LSU this past Tuesday. So, computer tricker, I would say. Computer
maybe
tricker.
adjust the metrics a little bit.
Yes, but either way, we're talking about Cincinnati on this here podcast. Justin, they've like Landon Vitterick right now is swinging a really hot bat. He had 4 home runs in the homestand. They've got Carrington Cross. Jack Natalie leads all Bearcat hitters with 1 WAR, and he's swinging a 1.1 OPS right now. They've got some solid pitching as well. Nasty Nathan Taylor has been just absolutely lethal. He's got an ERA of like 1.3 right now. I'm saying a lot of numbers. All I'm trying to say is this: watch this team. They're good.
Yeah.
They're going to win some games. They're going to surprise some people. And maybe this can be the team that makes it to the NCAA tournament. Not any of the other teams. We're not really coming up any closer in the Directors Cup standings this year than we did last year, but baseball might be that team. So if you're interested in watching some late night baseball Friday and Saturday night, 9 p.m. games both days, and on Sunday, 2 p.m. game to end the series. So your boy will be there Saturday, hopefully pulling on the Bearcats for a dub. Justin, once again, I ask you, if the Bearcats, let's say the Bearcats win 2 out of 3 next weekend, we've got Cincinnati hosting BYU. Would you be rooting for the Cougs, or would you be rooting for the Cats?
Oh, I got to root for the Cats. There's no rooting for the Cougs when it's
okay.
Cougs versus Cats. However,
you've been recruited a little bit at least recently, so
and let's just point this out. I am wearing blue right now. This is how you know the season's over, because I don't know if I've ever worn blue on this podcast ever, which is problematic. And here's the thing: I'll just add this as a tidbit. For my entire life, I have hated the color blue, and it's because I've always been raised to hate Xavier. I hated the color blue, and I don't like it on anything. It's starting to grow on me, and I'm like, why have I started to like blue recently? It's because I like BYU, and I think blue starting to grow on me. Little fun fact. However, some interesting facts which I will add for that BYU homestand. March 20th, Thirsty Thursday, Cincy Koozie giveaway. Friday game, spring break game and sunglasses giveaway, and then Saturday game, trading card giveaway and post-game autographs. So get out there for that homestand and beat up on the Cougs. And I just like what I'm going to add this here too, Steve. If the Bearcats can manage to win tonight, for those of you listening on Friday, happy Friday, by the way, if they can win that game in Tucson for the first one, that will put the Bearcats at a 7-game win streak. You know what that means? They've already got West beat. They got West tied, but they got West beat this early on throughout his entire time in 4 years. So that is what we call a winning streak. That's what we call momentum. Let's keep it rolling. I'm hoping that they keep continuing to win. I mean, it's great. And like you said, I don't think before the season I would have looked and thought that baseball would be one of the program really to lead the way, but I think they could legitimately do it. And at 11-6 so far, got some good wins on the schedule already. I think they got a chance. A little bit of injury trouble, but I think that they've got a lot of potential, and that's what I'm excited for. Like, give me something to believe in. Anybody, please give me something to believe in. But also, if you're gonna go down in a burning plane crash, please just God make it happen faster. Maybe 2025 is not the time to talk about that. Steve, do we have anything for Viva La Cash Big 12 head to head? I mean, I guess we could give an update on the Ghost team.
Yeah. So right now, we game just went final, by the way. So we are going to go over to our Big 12 head-to-head records. Our friend Joel has fallen down the standings a little bit, and we've got to pick our friend up because as of right now, each one of his tournament teams in the Big 12, they're all out. They're all out of the conference tournament. He has no more wins to pick up, and likely he's likely only going to get Kansas and potentially West Virginia in the big dance. Now, Justin, let's set the record straight here. Are we counting the crown towards our competition? Because our man might need some help.
Man, see, we should have clarified lingo. I didn't even think I would have to consider this, but like we said, postseason games. We will talk about this. We will come back around because there's still time for the crown to talk about this later. But I got to find the exact verbiage because did I say NCAA tournament or did I say postseason games included? Because if I said postseason, we can give him the crown. If it's not, and it's just the tournament, then sorry, Joel, buddy, you're going to be running.
Well, either way, Joel is fighting uphill right now because he currently has a -4, which means he is 4 wins behind the Ghost team and would have to run 4 live unalives on this very show, folks. He has recently texted into the chat and said he broke all of his arms and legs and has a doctor's note telling us that he can't run. So we might be delayed on that endeavor.
Could be.
He said he could definitely prove it, but not at the moment that he texted. So,
yep.
We'll see. He kind of got screwed over a little bit by Colorado deciding to win 2 games. Each one of the Ghost teams won a game in the Big 12 tournament, and that kind of hurt. That kind of hurt our friend Joel a little bit because a lot of the teams on his squad decided to lose games. So unless Kansas pulls off a miracle run in the NCAA tournament, our man Joel might be running a few unalives. But Justin, you and I are both 5 wins over the Ghost team right now. We've still got BYU, Houston, Arizona, Houston and Arizona alive among us two, and the Ghost team has Texas Tech alive. So if Texas Tech wins, that just adds another unalive for Joel. So honestly, I might just be rooting for Texas Tech the rest of the way. I said I was rooting for Houston, but the funniest outcome would be Texas Tech winning a few more games and our friend Joel spending an entire podcast running on a basketball gym floor.
That's actually the scary point that I don't know if I really came to the realization of until this very moment is that when you hit the point where we're at now, where your teams are cooked, if Kansas goes out in the first round, the Ghost team has 2 teams in the tournament, and UCF could potentially be a crown team. I don't know. I'd have to see how everything shakes out, but they have some resumes there that every single win that they collect is one more unalive that Joel runs. So sorry, buddy. That will actually. I think we should just set the record straight right now. When it comes to the point that the rent comes due and this has to be done, I know you said like we'll do it live on the podcast. Like we should literally put him in the middle, dead center. We're gonna be talking, doing the podcast, and he's just gonna be. You're gonna see him like an ant on your screen, just running in the background all the way around.
We should get him one of those lav mics and just have him wear it just on like his shirt collar just while he's running.
Oh, wow. Tough roll, buddy. Tough roll. But, is what it is. That's what you get for picking Cincinnati. Talking about the Bearcats. We don't have a Viva La Cash for you, but we'll leave it with you in this form. Steve, right now, if you were to just go out and pick any Big 12 team out of our whole grouping of teams that will go to the NCAA tournament, who do you think is going to make it the farthest?
You know what? I am going to go with Houston. Easy pick, but they are just like their losses this year are to Texas Tech, Auburn, Alabama, and I'm forgetting the other one. But those are like 3 of the top 12 teams probably in the nation right now. And they're all fairly good. I'm forgetting who their 4th loss was, but man, they are just an absolute wagon. And so I am going to say that Houston is going to keep this rolling throughout the season, and they are going to. I kind of want them to reach the Final Four, so I'm gonna have Houston as my team. What about you?
That's very fair. The other one was San Diego State, 70-73.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
Yeah,
that game.
that
Was
one
a
just
weird
slipped
one.
in there. They started off, what was it, 4-3, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, Houston might be bad this year." Well, they
Yeah,
responded in kind with
they
winning
will.
a lot of other games and going on like a 10-game winning
Justin,
streak, 11 losing to Texas Tech, and
I
then 10
think the
again.
most amazing thing I'm realizing about Houston this year, they went 10-0 on the road. They did not lose a road game this year. And that's all in Big 12 play, by the way. They did not lose a Big 12 road game. They lost 1 home game in conference all year. They're absolute, like, the sickos in the best way possible.
Absolutely. If I had to pick one to just put it simple, it would be idiotic to pick anything other than Houston based on their resume this season. And I think they're a little pissed off after the past few years of not really getting as far as they wanted to. So Houston would be the pick, but you're gonna laugh at me for this, but dude, somebody's a little hot right now. There's
You're riding with them.
there's some Cougs that are a little hot right
You're
now.
riding with them. I love it.
It's I think they could actually do it. They've clearly shown an ability to score. And if you all follow our friend Evan Mia, has some really interesting numbers and stats, but a graph that he just put out recently displayed that BYU was one of the most interesting teams of the tournament resume teams, in the fact that their best player and their worst player in their top 8 rotation as compared to the rest of the tournament, they're all pretty darn close to each other. And they're a pretty good team. And if you want to just know what they've done lately, since they lost to Cincinnati by 18 points, they beat West Virginia, Kansas State, Kansas, Arizona, Arizona State, West Virginia, Iowa State, Utah, Iowa State again, and then they play Houston tomorrow. That's a pretty nice streak right now, and I think they got a potential to give Houston a run for their money. Will they win? Most likely not. Could they? Potential. And there's always one of those weird middle seed teams that kind of makes a run towards the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. I don't see why they couldn't do it. And the Big 12 clearly has some great ones. And I just hope, and this will be my final point, and we'll make the Bearcat Sports wrap up for the tournament coming up. I think it's a little bullshit that the SEC gets football and now they get basketball. I hope they get humbled. And the whatever 13 teams they're going to get in, get out of here with that shit, man. Like, it's the Big 12. It's the Big 12's conference, so we need to win some games and help ourselves out in when it matters. Not in the early season tournaments. We need to win games now in the big tournament, in the big dance. So, Big 12 teams, do your damn job.
Do
you
made us
suffer all year. Don't make us suffer again. Make it worth something. Steve, Bearcat Sports wrap up. Hit it. Let's get out of here.
Sounds good to me. We are starting off with our friends in indoor track and field. A couple weeks ago, the Big 12 hosted its championships in Lubbock, Texas, and our man Ashley Davis won the Big 12 triple jump championship. Shout out to him. And he is competing in the NCAA Indoor Championships this upcoming weekend. He will compete with Abby Nauf in the women's pole vault for Cincinnati, Fred Mudani-Lakibi in the men's shot put, and Justin Abrams in the heptathlon. So if you got some time this weekend, definitely turn on that indoor track meet on ESPN Plus, by the way, as all other NCAA championships are, other than March Madness. It's such fun watching those events, man. And these athletes are really doing some crazy stuff. Like, if you like watching the Olympics, like, you'll enjoy watching
sure.
the college guys. Swimming and diving. Cincinnati's Jolie Cry captured the gold in the women's 100-meter breaststroke in the Big 12 championships in a 58-second time. And she unleashed a new UC hand sign, which I like, Justin. Like, you what do you think about this? Like the little, you got the U and you got the C, and you can only have to do one. I like it. We should keep doing it.
We've seen so many variations, but none of them have stuck. Maybe that one could.
I think this one should stick. So I like this one. Let's keep rolling with it.
Let's use it.
She will be competing in this event, the 100-meter breaststroke and the 200-yard medley relay, with teammates Jessica Davis, Kate Martis, and Ellie Schrank next week at the NCAA Swimming and Diving Championships in Washington State. That is also on ESPN Plus, by the way, starting next Wednesday. So again, if you've got some time and you want to watch a couple things in between all the madness next week, turn on that swimming NCAA tournament, because, it's just, again, like just the Olympic sports that capture the nation in August. Swimming was one of those as well. And so this is going to be a huge event. So shout out to Jolie for completing and winning the gold at the Big 12 championships in the 100-meter breaststroke. Lacrosse, the women defeated Eastern Michigan at home on Sunday, 13-9. And they're going to host Wofford this upcoming Friday before they head to Mount St. Mary's on St. Patrick's Day this upcoming Monday. Shout out to them, 5-4 on the season so far. Big 12 play is still coming up in a few weeks, so they got some time. But definitely get out there and turn them on Friday if you've got some time. Women's that's an older one. And our final one for this upcoming week, men's golf. They will be competing in the Johnny O next week in Sea Island, Georgia. Hopefully it's nicer there than it is in my home state of Arizona. We had rain today, so that says a lot for us. We get rain probably 5 times a year. So
very nice.
It's tough. And that, Justin, is your Bearcat Sports wrap up.
I'm glad that you put all those on there. And here's one extra little one, because guess what? We're going to just throw them down. Our friends, the Disc Cats, are performing quite early and quite consistently. They already have 3 wins on the season, and the meets are a little less voluminous than some of the other sports, but quite honestly, it just makes them matter more. They have already qualified for the college disc golf regionals, and have again secured 3 wins. Bradley Caldwell taking down the singles W's, and just honestly, some very, very impressive performances, and the consistency is great between their varsity D1 teams and their D2 qualifiers. So they have 3 bids for the D1 regionals and 6 for the D2. So great to see that there, and I hope they continue to improve, because it's always fun. And when those things get running, man, you got the you got multiple D1 champions, and you also have the 2023 national champions and 2024 national championship runner-ups. So maybe 2025 they can get another national championship.
That might be nice.
Yeah. I mean, just tack it on, man. Just more Bearcat dubs. Just keep it going. But
please.
That's what we got. That's what we got. And we have hit the magic number 13. So we have been recording for a very long time, and it is time for us to go do other things. We hope that you enjoyed the long eulogy of the long death that was this season. The dumpster fire is officially almost over, but it's officially over in the capacity that no matter what happens, nothing really matters from this point forward. So, I mean, hey.
Has anything ever really mattered?
No, that's true. Go watch the tournament. Have fun. We will connect back with you all next week. Give you some more updates, of course, on the Diamond Cats. Who knows? Maybe there'll already be some early transfer portal moves. You never know what happens. It's probably too early to tell with the tournament, but things get shifting pretty quick. So it's the new NIL era, and we'll see how things work out. But Steve, thanks for joining me this week. Listeners, thanks for listening this week. As always, make sure to check out the 10-12 network, providing great coverage of the Big 12 in so many different facets. And as well, shout out to our sponsors, Extra Points and Charlie Hustle, for always bringing vintage merch and fantastic coverage of all the ins and outs of college sports. We've got it all. everything Bearcats here. So if you're not already, make sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Pods, or wherever you listen. And please leave a rating for the show. It does help you boys out. That's it. Have fun. Have a good weekend. And maybe we'll watch the Bearcats in the Crown. Maybe. Probably not. But who knows? Viva!
The cats.